In this episode of Cobb TV, we are talking about reggae drumming. Yes, and be sure to like and subscribe for more epic musical content. Now, I have to give you a big disclaimer before getting into the grooves. Reggae drumming is not something you just easily learn overnight. You might be able to learn some grooves, but in order to really play the style fluently, you must immerse yourself in that kind of music, much like jazz. It's kind of similar. It might sound simple at first, but to play authentically takes some time. All right, but we're going to get into it nice and easy by talking about the one drop. One drop basically means that the musicians don't really play on one. At least that's how I like to think of it. The guitar, they do up strums, chicka, chicka, chicka. In order to get started, we're going to need to do rim clicks on the snare, side sticking, all right? If you watch a lot of reggae drummers, they use the butt end of the stick. You can either count this in a slow 4/4 or half time. I like to count it in half time and put my backbeat, the side stick, and the bass drum on beat 3. All right, now that we've established our backbeat, let's keep it simple by playing quarter notes on the hi-hat. All right, now we're going to add some eighth notes in there, and we're going to get this kind of rhythm. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3. Don't swing it just quite yet. Keep it nice and straight, just like this. Now, this is one of the trickier parts in reggae drumming, and that's when they do the accents on the offbeat. We're mainly used to hitting these on the downbeats, but we're going to hit these on the upbeats. So right on beat 2 and 4, if you're counting this in halftime, is where we're going to put the accent. And you're going to see my arm swinging on the offbeats using some Moeller style technique. Now, if you have this feel down, you can already hear that you're starting to sound more like a reggae drummer. All right, and then you can experiment with the different degrees of swing. You can speed up the tempo. And as I've said before, reggae is a lot like jazz in that you have to immerse yourself in this style of music in order to really understand what's going on. And that includes comping. You can comp a lot once you get the basic reggae beat down, putting your side stick on crazy syncopated parts of the rhythm, as well as your bass drum. Just don't play on one, and you're really going to capture this style. And you start to notice that the hi-hat is like a dance. I've heard some people describe reggae music as a drum solo on the hi-hat. I'm not sure how accurate that is or if that makes sense to anyone else. It didn't really to me, but I did understand that it's very busy on the hi-hat, and you can change up the rhythm a lot. And like I said, you can mess around with the different degrees of swing within the context of the song as long as the band is responding to you. But you also can play 4 on the floor, just like in the song Jammin' by Bob Marley. going back to that first rhythm we worked on, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, and 3, 4, and. If you play 4 on the floor on the kick drum in that beat and go back to playing regular snare hits on the backbeat, you have that reggae rock feel that you hear in songs like Could You Be Loved? And of course, that groove that you heard is a more modern interpretation of the reggae feel. You can hear it in more modern ska music. But before we continue on, let's talk about the triplet side of things. When it's a slower type of groove, triplets is more or less the type of feel that you're going to be experiencing when you're locking in with the rhythm section. And one of my favorite grooves is when the drummer does these accents on the triplet, boom, and it's actually really tricky because they're still playing on the downbeat and they're accenting on the upbeat. It's like and again, it's really tricky to master. I'm still working on it, but it's going to sound a little bit like this. You can hear a great example of that on the tune Crazy Bald Head by Bob Marley, I believe it is. But when you're going a little bit quicker, it's kind of hard to do that exactly. And if you're playing within the triplet feel, another way you can do it is just by hitting those triplet notes, much like this. So last but not least, we're going to talk about the main way that I've noticed reggae drummers playing drum fills, and that's with a single rudiment called a double drag. It's a drag followed by 2 accents, and I'll hear them open a lot of drum fills just like this. Taste of reggae drumming. You must immerse yourself in this style of music if you want to get good at playing it. All right? Listen to the greats. I mentioned Carlton Barrett a lot. He is probably my biggest influence when it comes to this style of music, but Leroy Horsemouth Wallace is another good one to listen to, as well as Peter Tosh, Sly Dunbar. Check those guys out, and please leave a comment of who your favorite reggae drummer is. Be sure to like and subscribe for more epic musical content. But in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.